Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another PI Pop-In. That stands for Personal Injury Pop-In. Today, we will be discussing what type of auto insurance you should have to protect you. For those of you who are familiar with Fairell Roy Associates, you know we do a lot of family law cases. That's half of our practice. The other half of our practice is personal injury. And personal injury are your auto accident cases and your slip and fall cases. And so we are dedicated to making sure that you're knowledgeable and being prepared to have everything you need in place to protect you in the event you're ever in an auto accident. Unlike family law, personal injury is unpredictable. We can kind of see a divorce coming down the road. We can predict the child custody issue, but auto accidents, we literally never know when they're going to happen. So we're going to make sure that we put you in the best position possible so that when you reach out to us for representation, we can get the best recovery for you that's available. So for those who don't know me, we'll do some quick introductions. My name is Attorney Joy Fairell. I'm the managing partner at Fairell Roy Associates. You can find out our information is at the bottom of the screen, fairellroy.com, and our phone number is 678-973-2803. You can book, no, you can't book online anymore. You actually have to call. I took that feature down because y'all were really on my calendar every week.
That's a good thing. That's a good problem to have.
That's a good thing, yes. So I was trying to find my name. There it is. Google that. So yes, that's how you can reach us on the website. If you need family law advice, the time to tune in is on Mondays at 2:00 p.m. I go live and answer all of your questions. If you have personal injury questions, you can DM them. You can comment on this video, and we'll circle back and make sure we have those questions answered. Next up is Attorney Hall. I'll let her introduce herself to you.
Hi, I'm Attorney Kimberly Hall. If this is your first time, hi. If you have been watching me, welcome back. Good to see you again. I am excited about today's topic. Joy told me to introduce myself. I'm already trying to talk about the materials. So if you have not watched my videos and this is the first time, I'm Attorney Kimberly Hall. I am over the personal injury department. I think we gave me a name last time. What was it? The great one? Magic worker,
manager, just whatever greatness means, you guys, and whatever phenomenal, like to the max.
There we go.
This is what Attorney Hall is. She is invaluable to me. I love her so very much. If you don't know that, Kim, I do. Okay, so I can't even give you a title that's worthy of my feelings of you. Okay.
No title needed. As that's what the young kids say. No title needed. So I've been doing personal injury over a decade now. I love the business of personal injury. I'm always trying to learn more about it and do the best and get the best results for my clients. And so I love the opportunity to get on here and give you information about personal injury and your insurance and things of that nature, just so you are educated. So if the time ever arises that you need our services, you already know what to do.
Exactly. So today we're going to be talking about what type of insurance do you need to have, because a lot of times I think people are very interested in the other person, like what do they have and
right.
XYZ, but there's some things that you can do for you and your family to make sure that regardless of what they're working with, you're going to be taken care of. So we're going to jump right into this conversation. And the first thing we're going to have Attorney Hall go over is state minimum coverage. Can you tell us about what that means, Kim, and what's required here in the state of Georgia?
Yeah, so in the state of Georgia, the state minimum is 25, and 25? Just so you know, 25,000. Every state does not have that. Like Florida minimum is 10,000. So right. You go there and get hit, kind of thing. But so for the state of Georgia, the minimum is 25,000. Now, when we say 25,000 coverage, that can be liability or full coverage, but the minimum to carry to have insurance is a minimum of 25,000 here in the state of Georgia.
And I will say that a lot of people, just as they do with a lot of things in life, do the bare minimum. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to have the minimum coverage? And so, Kim, can you tell them about why they shouldn't have the minimum coverage on their policy and how that affects them if something
Yeah,
happens?
so anytime you have minimum coverage, what that means is, and let me say this, we are talking sometimes like in your worst case scenarios. So, for example, I have a client now, he had really bad issues with his knees already had a surgery, got hit like a month later after his surgery, had just went back to work, and he had it re-injured the knee and he needed a new surgery. And so the person that hit him, if you have state minimum, which is 25 people, the surgery was 55 grand. Like his coverage doesn't even cover his medical bills. So now what you want to do, if you think about just having state minimum coverage, that means now if you have elected to even have additional coverage on your policy, you only have 25,000 as well. So having the state minimum really just limits your ability of what you can recover in addition, right, to the person that hit you. And so if we just take that as an example, that means the coverage is only 50,000 total, even though he's had a surgery, he's in rehab, been out of work for 2 months. So that's a situation that you don't want to get in. Other situations it comes up too when people die. And I know a lot of times we see all these commercial millions, but that is not the scenario for most people because as we discussed in other videos, your limits are your limits. So if the insurance company pays the limits and the limits are 25 and somebody dies, that's all that's out there. And then you don't have any coverage, or then you again are only carrying the state minimum. And then here we are again, somebody has died and the full recovery is going to be 50,000.
And just to be clear, because I don't want people to be confused, just because you have insurance, you don't automatically get to use your insurance. You have to have another type of insurance that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. If you don't have this upcoming insurance we're going to talk about, you can't use your 25,000 or your 50,000 or 100,000. So make sure you keep listening, because when we finish this today, we need every single one of you guys to call your insurance agent, get on your insurance app, and make sure for $2 or $3 y'all add these policies to your coverage. All right, so when people get insurance, Kim, we typically see the words bodily and property coverage. Can you explain what that means so people understand what they're getting?
Yes, so bodily injury, or some of you guys may see it as a BI on your actual policy. That's a bodily injury portion. That just means physically, whatever medical bills you have, injuries you sustain, head injury, any broken bone, surgery, that kind of thing, that is covered under bodily injury. Okay. Property coverage or property damage, also known as PD, is your vehicle. It's also things which a lot of people do not actually tell the insurance company, and they actually don't tell us either until we dig, is that any property in your vehicle that's damaged. So your eyeglasses, your really nice sunglasses, your cell phones, a lot of cell phones get destroyed in car accidents, car seats, strollers, your laptop that you take to work, any of those items, your bag got thrown out, like any of those things, that is also covered under property damage.
Just as a side note, Kim, we're moving to our new office space soon, and I purchased I got a chandelier, and it was several $1,000s, and it was too heavy for me to get out of the car. So I had been driving around with it in my car for like 2 weeks. And I said, you know what? I got to take this thing out, because nobody's going to believe me when I make this insurance claim. If somebody hit this car, I'm going to need them to pay full.
Right. And that's such a good point, because anything in your car is covered,
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people, they just think about the car. They don't think about, and if you hit some piece of property as well,
Right.
that can also, be covered too under the property damage.
Yeah, down the street from us, somebody ran into the neighborhood sign and completely destroyed the front entrance. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's going to be a straight property claim.
Yeah, that's a property damage claim, So it covers multiple things, not just like the vehicle, but things inside the vehicle and what the vehicle may hit. But in terms of what we just talked about, where we talked about liability, If you only have liability, liability is only going to cover property damage. It's not going to cover. It's not going to cover any bodily injury.
Mm-hmm. And would that be for yourself or for the person that you hit?
Both.
Okay.
On the liability portion, both.
Okay. So if somebody runs into person X, destroys their car, only has liability coverage, the person who was injured can only get their car fixed.
That is correct.
Okay. And so that's why the person injured would need to have this next type of insurance that we need you guys to make sure you have. And that's going to be your uninsured, underinsured policies, also known as UM, or I think they call it UIM, also on some policies. So can you talk about why it's important for people to make sure they have a UM policy on their auto insurance?
Yes. So I'm gonna give an example, and I was supposed somebody. I learned by examples. Like, you can talk to me about stuff all day, but give me the example so I can link back. So I just had this case. Was one of the best cases a lawyer could have walking in the door. They were coming to an intersection, and my client had a stop sign, and so did the other one. It's a 4 intersection inside of a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera on the house caught the full accident, right? And so what happened was, he stopped to turn, the other car did not, and he ripped the front end off his car. I mean, it was like watching, I couldn't believe it, because like, this just doesn't happen. Like, you get good footage, good video, good, it was clear, you know, all of that. And the person who hit him was not covered on the policy, because they were not a resident of that house. And so that policy didn't cover just anybody driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool, no problem. So you have coverage, right? Oh, I got full coverage. People love to say that. I got full coverage. Okay,
don't even know what full coverage mean. Okay.
Don't even know what it means. Go, and he rejected the UM portion of his case, or UN portion of his policy.
Yeah.
And therefore, there was no recovery for him.
Yeah, and it gets real tricky, guys. When you guys are signing those insurance policies, it's really almost like one of the little boxes. They just say initial here, initial here, initial here. If you're not reading it, you will initial that you are waiving having that on your policy. So you need to make sure you're reading. And that's why I'm saying go back today and just email your agent and say, hey, I want to add the UM back to my policy. And I promise you, it's going to be less than $10 a month to add. But the value of having it, if you get in one of these accidents, is really priceless, or whatever your policy amount is, 50 grand, 100 grand.
Is. And it's hard. It's hard to tell clients, because I know like these things change their life. You know, then they have medical bills, you know, the car's totaled out. Like, and for him, like all he could do was get his car fixed. And for him, like he also didn't have rental coverage. So like if he got a rental car, he was going to pay for it out of his pocket, or he was going to just have to wait until they totaled his car out, gave him money, and he go get another car. And so like having these policies, and you know, this is more than just a money conversation. This is really about protection of you, because you just can't assume that people driving on the road have insurance, and you can't always assume that it's their car, right? We make that assumption. In some of these insurance agencies, which I won't call them out, that I mean, they're known for that. Like they go in to find how they can tell you there isn't going to be any coverage. They're very strict on their policies when it comes to what people are signing, and people just say, hey, I just need coverage. I need coverage. But they don't go into any detail about what they actually are getting. And so that's how he ended up in this particular situation. And I hated it for him, but there was literally nothing I could do, because there wasn't any insurance available. The person that hit him didn't have any insurance. Then he did not have the proper insurance. And so therefore, and, so you need UM and UN insurance. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When the agents quote you, they're going to quote you the absolute lowest price. Because they want your business. And so they're going to quote you that state minimum policy. They're going to quote you with you waiving all the additional. They're going to have you waive UM, waive mid pay, waive gap, all that, so they can give you that really good price. And you say, oh man, that sounds good. I'd rather pay, you know, $89 a month or $116 a month instead of $170 or $140. And so you just sign the dotted line because you're ready to ride off in your new car, or you're ready to, you know, switch agencies. And so you guys got to make sure you're reading. So let's talk about gap coverage. Let's say the client we just talked about, let's say he had a brand new car. This happens all the time, right? So he had a
Yes.
brand new car, and car, he just rolled off the lot with it, $35,000. He's only made 3 or 4 months worth of payments. Gets in an accident, totals out the car, but he waived gap coverage. Can you talk about what gap coverage is and how gap coverage is absolutely essential, especially when you have, well, always when you have a car note?
Yeah.
Coverage.
If you have a car note, you absolutely need gap insurance. I don't know how to stress like you need gap insurance. And
So
simply because
right,
go
it
ahead.
feels right from what I owe and what is worth at
Correct.
the collision. It feels in.
100%.
Otherwise, you take that debt with you to the next car.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what it is. And so, I mean, gap is what it says, it fills in the gap. So, the most important thing to understand is that what you owe on a car is not the car's worth, right? Most people, everybody, for the most part, you pay more than what a car is worth, right?
Yeah.
That's simply because cars depreciate in value. So, literally, the day that you leave the lot,
It goes
the
down.
car has already depreciated. So
Right.
that's why when you have an accident, even in a new car, you have an accident a month later or 2 months later, you already could be at $1,000 deficit or $2,000 deficit on what the car is owed versus what you have paid for it. Excuse me. So in cases where you need gap coverage, is that your car is worth $30,000, but the payoff is $35,000. So there's a $5,000 gap that isn't going to be paid. And clients say this all the time. Well, the car, I owe 35, I owe 35. They're not paying what you owe. They are paying what it's worth. Just like when you go trade your car in and they tell you they're going to give you 5 and you like, I need 10. No, the car is worth 5. So it's the same thing in a car accident. So that 5,000 gap, you will be responsible for it unless you have gap coverage. Now, gap coverage has really evolved in years. So you can have gap coverage through your dealership where you buy it. You can have gap coverage through your lien holder. You can also have gap coverage through your insurance policy, which is where, is where I carry mine. But some people do carry it with their lien holder or through the dealership. So always, always, always have gap coverage if you have a payment, a lien on your car, because what will happen once they pay what the car is worth to the lien provider, that $5,000 still belongs to you to pay. And so you either have to go get a new car and tack that $5,000 onto that, or you just got to pay the $5,000 and then still go buy another car. And now you have another car payment along with the $5,000 that you owe.
Right. In 2016, I had a 2016 vehicle. That's when I got in that accident. I had less than 10,000 miles on the car. Gap coverage came through just like it's supposed to.
Well, do you remember the gap coverage amount?
I want to say, you mean how much I paid for the gap coverage or how much the gap?
No. How much they covered? What was the gap amount? How much?
7,000.
Could you imagine like that happening and you had to pay $7,000 yourself?
No. On a car that's in the junkyard?
In the junkyard. That's what's so hurtful, right? You just paying on it. It ain't even yours no more.
You still got to get another one. No. So what's total loss coverage?
Okay, so total loss coverage, and the insurance queen here, me, I have all of this. Like I have it on every car that I have. Like I have the max from top to bottom. Sell it to me. I want it, right? So total loss coverage is, we just talked about gap coverage and total loss. Depending on the policy, they will give you 20%. They will give you 20% of the value of the vehicle that you lost.
They give
right? Yes, they give it to you like your own check. Yes.
So you can go put a down payment on another car.
Facts.
Okay.
Right? And so when they first told me about it, I was like, but I got gap coverage. And so the guy was like, this thing is like 80 cents. Like, why wouldn't you get it? Like, it's 20% of whatever the value of your car is. So, I mean, people just run these numbers in your head. Like, the value of your car.
It would be an $8,000 check.
Yeah. For literally on my policy, it was like 80 cents more, like, so again, insurance is that thing,
Write
like,
down, call agent,
yeah,
add.
total loss coverage. Some people also call it, I just saw it called something else with the Hartford, a benefit coverage plan or something like that. But that's essentially what it is if your car is totaled out, what percentage would they cover on the total loss?
Mm-hmm.
After they paid it off. This is Gap done covered it, right? So, it's one of those things. Insurance is like, it sucks to pay it, but when you need it, you want it to be there. And so don't nickel and dime yourself, because what you are cutting corners on for $5 or $10, what can cause you thousands of dollars in the long run. And it's just not the position that you want to be sitting in.
Absolutely. I will absolutely add that to my policy this week. Just thinking about, the process of buying a car and down payments and kind of what happens when you lose your vehicle. I mean, that extra money, especially depending on how much your car costs,
Yes.
And the value, that could be substantial. Even for cars that are only worth $10,000, that's still $2,000 in your...
There also, I just thought about this when you said it, because I also have this too, is payment, like your lost wage payment. They'll pay you $2,000. It depends what plan you get or whatever, but they'll pay you up to a certain amount for so many days because you had to miss work, which I think is great as well. I think mine is like $2,000 or something like that, but I'll take my $2,000 if I gotta not be working.
I'll just say that does not cover your wages, but yes.
Yes, yeah. So you trying to throw me under the bus? I didn't say it. I just said I'll take my $2,000.
Okay, I'll take it too. It ain't gonna help you though, but okay.
MedPay coverage, man. Y'all have not watched my MedPay videos. Like, you need to go and watch the MedPay videos. So MedPay, or medical payment, is what it's short for. Has nothing to do with health insurance. This is totally separate. Totally separate, because a lot of people, I have health insurance. This doesn't apply to them, right? Mm-hmm. So in the event that you were in a auto collision or car accident, you have medical bills. If they total whatever amount, your insurance company will give you a check directly back in your pocket to pay for those medical bills. Mm-hmm. So if you go to the emergency room, I always suggest people carry at least $5,000 in MedPay. The minimum for the state of Georgia is $1,000 on MedPay. I think it goes, some people do a 1, I've seen a 3, and then a 5,000. Then of course you can go up from there. I personally carry a $10,000. No, I carry $25,000 in MedPay. But I think it actually goes 1, 5, 10, 25, 50, and then 100,000 on MedPay. So for me, I cover 25,000, and just because I do this every day, I just know like the direction that cases can go in terms of medical bills. But essentially what happens, anything that you pay out of pocket, even if health insurance covered it, you can get that money back from your from your car insurance policy. So again, my recommendation on that is $5,000 at least at minimum, because even if you have an emergency room visit,
right,
I mean, your bill at most is probably $2,500 to $5,000. Right. So carrying $1,000 ain't mad. It's just not going to do much for you. Right. And so to really get a return on your investment, I would suggest the $5,000 minimum.
Okay. And I think when we did a video last year, I actually increased mine to 10,000 because I think that's what yours was. And now you're talking about 25,000. So in addition to my say, well, y'all got to move me up to the 25 on the MedPay, also maybe even 50, honey. So because when we do,
because just think about the client I was talking about who had the knee surgery.
I know.
He had MedPay. Matter of fact, well, he does have MedPay. He just doesn't have that much of it. But still, like, if he had 25,000, I mean, legit, he would just get a $25,000 check. That's completely separate from his case.
Yeah,
it's completely separate from any other money he's getting ready to recover.
That's great. Now, I do caution people though, because some of these doctors, and once they know you have MedPay, so like. They try to like run your bill to your MedPay balance. So I know when I had to do my treatment, I did not advise that I had MedPay because I knew it would bill me up to my MedPay amount or make that my treatment. And I didn't want to necessarily pay, $5,000 in this treatment when I thought it was only worth $2,000.
Right. And yeah, I'm sorry if I got doctors out here watching me. I mean, and I keep it real with my doctors, like, hey, I'm not getting ready to just straight pay you out their med pay. And so I'm really glad that you said that, because your med pay payments should be coming directly to you, or in the event that we are hired, we have those med pay payments come directly to us, and then we issue the med pay payment to you, to make sure, one, that you're getting all of your med pay and that everything that needs to be submitted is done, and making sure the insurance company responds timely.
Right.
Which is the benefit of hiring Fairell Roy Associates.
Right. So the last one we're going to talk about today in our last few minutes is going to be rideshare coverage. In 2021, tell us about what that is and why it's important.
I just need you to say it one more time, Attorney Fair. What is it?
I don't know.
Rideshare coverage.
I'm saying, why is it important? Or
I was trying to get the dramatic effect. She let me down. Okay, so
I'm sorry. Listen, I can't even see the screen, honey. I'm trying to control all these controls. Rideshare coverage. Yes, I thought you said it was why you need rideshare coverage, because everybody is ride sharing, especially this new generation, honey. They act like they don't even need to know how to drive. So yes, tell us about it.
Yes, so rideshare coverage, if you are Ubering or Lyfting or Door Dashing or whatever, you really need to let your insurance company know. And so what had happened in the past is that people wouldn't tell their insurance company that they drive for Uber or Lyft because they didn't want their insurance to go up. The problem is, depending on how the accident happens, whether or not you had a passenger, were you on the way to pick up a passenger, did you just drop a passenger off? All of that is dependent on whether Uber or Lyft will even kick in to pay any damage to your vehicle. So I have a client right now, for example, he had just dropped off a passenger and was getting ready to drive to go pick up the next person, and then he gets into this really bad accident. Well, what happens is, because he didn't have a passenger in the car, Lyft is not responsible. He did not have gap coverage. So now that $5,000, that $8,000, I think his is like $8,000. It's on him. He got to pay it. But had he had rideshare coverage, then they would have covered the difference of what he owed. But because he didn't tell his insurance company he was driving for Lyft, then therefore he doesn't have any remedy. And so he is stuck essentially with paying the joy of working from home. So, that is why you have to let your insurance company know that you have ride share, because again, and the other thing, let me explain something else about that case too, where we talk about those minimums. Because that person had minimum coverage for property damage, which was $25,000, and he had a car that was worth more than that. Like the vehicle itself, I think he had like a 2019 car. So it was worth more than that. So the property damage didn't even cover it.
How you got a 2019 with minimum coverage?
Yeah, he had minimum coverage, and he didn't tell them that he rode for Lyft. So the benefits of it under his insurance didn't even kick in.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So this is just my lawyer brain. If he would have not disclosed that he was in the middle of working on Uber, would the regular insurance have picked up?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it, but you know what I'm thinking. So
I do know what you're thinking.
Hypothetically, if one were to, accidentally not have rideshare coverage and was in the middle of Uber between pickups, should they not say that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody to tell people lie to their insurance company.
Right.
But in terms of disclosing, yeah, you need to be careful about what you're saying if you're making the option not to have rideshare coverage. Like that.
Well,
now they be offering it for like $2. It used to not be that way.
Well, as we always say anyway, you don't need to speak to the insurance company until you speak to a lawyer.
Right.
Anyway. And if you follow those instructions from all of our previous videos, you won't even end up in a scenario where you're counseling yourself out. So we'll just reiterate that. We're not going to tell you how to lie or anything of that nature, but we are going to tell you to get counsel before you ever speak to the insurance. And don't be fooled. They call sounding real kiki gaga. We hope you're
They
okay. We're
do.
going to cover everything. Just tell us what happened. Where were you going? What were you doing? Don't do it.
Right. Because they one, the calls are recorded, let's be clear. And two, they are really just trying to hear what you have to say. They're gonna already make a determination if they're gonna pay on this case and how much they're gonna pay. And a lot of times these conversations happen, they'd be like, okay, well, we'll give you $1,000 today. And just to Attorney Fairell's point, and then we're going to end our video here. To Attorney Fairell's point, that conversation with the insurance company, it really makes a big difference. I had a client here recently. Soon as she hired her insurance company, the defendant's insurance company, sent us a letter saying this was a low property damage, less than $500, and they're only offering $1,000 on her case. Her offer came in for $8,500. That was the first offer. So don't have conversations with the insurance company, because again, they'll tell you anything. And so I knew better. I saw that letter and filed it. Oh, okay. Let me do my magic here,
Right.
because what you're saying, it don't matter.
We're playing.
Okay. You need to call us. Don't think you can handle it. Don't be thinking, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's not that serious. Oh, I'm not there. Don't worry about all of that. No case is too small for us to take on, because sometimes what you thinking is small, really can be a policy limit case. You just never know. And just because you don't feel the pain today, don't mean you won't feel it tomorrow. Okay. So please, if you've been in an auto accident, or your friend or somebody make sure you're sending them these videos, make sure you're tagging us, make sure you're calling us, so we can take good care of you and get you the results that you deserve.
Right. And as soon as this ends, go ahead and get on your policy and go ahead and request those changes in writing. I promise you, if you get in an accident, you're going to be so thankful that you did that. So you guys be blessed. We will see you next week for the next PI Pop-In. If there's something you want us to talk about, feel free to DM us and we may do a video on it.